Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by Casse from the Casse Stable. Good morning, Norm.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Happy to have you over here. Talk a little bit about your season so far and what's coming up and whatnot. And we had your dad on earlier and talking about some of the racing, and so it's great to have you over here. Give us a little bit of the logistics. You've got horses at a number of venues, obviously. I pulled up your entries over the next few days. Kentucky Downs, Presque Isle. You have a horse and a stake there on Sunday. Home base for you guys is Woodbine?
I would say it's Woodbine. You could also say it's actually in Ocala. But right now we have horses spread throughout the country. And, you know, it's made possible because we have just a tremendous team, a tremendous supporting cast of owners, and we have a lot of nice horses. So, you know, every weekend's a big weekend.
and talk a little bit about the logistics with the string up at Woodbine. Does your dad go back and forth and you kind of oversee down here, or do you go back and forth as well?
Oh, I don't know. I probably haven't been to Woodbine in 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
That's Dad's main base. I kind of do the rest of the country, you know, Churchill, the Kentucky division, and then here, obviously, during the summer. When you have as many horses as we do and we run as many races as we do across the country every weekend, you've got to have a lot of assistant trainers. You've got to have a lot of people that you trust, and that's what makes it possible. We ship a lot of horses.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that going forward. I want to touch on this meet, and you know, it's a successful meet, but it has to be frustrating. Pulled up the stats, 39 starts, couple of wins, 8 second-place finishes, and we're going to pull up, boy, you have a really talented filly on the grass, Pepin. We're going to go back to this past weekend and watch the Boston Spa. Pepin is going to be the #1 horse. And this is the second tough beat at the meet for her, because she ran just like this in a Diana. The Diana was hard not to like, got up there. In the Boston Spa, DeCita gets up. Again, 2 nice performances, but it has to be a little bit frustrating. We're going to watch the stretch run here at the Boston Spa.
Okay.
Give us your impressions. As I say, it's got to, you know, she's really nice. Couple of close finishes at Saratoga and stakes races. You still have to come away happy.
Well, I mean, if you're watching right here, you think it's game over, and you're excited because you finally think she's going to get you over the hump here, and then just out of the cloud. And I'm going to tell you, that one was more painful than the Diana, albeit the Diana was a great one. That filly literally looked like she came out of nowhere to nail us. You kind of seen Hard Not to Like coming to get us at the Diana. It's, you know what it is it completely personifies the way that our meet's been. We've actually run really well.
Absolutely.
We've had 2 winners. And it's kind of sad to say, but it's actually probably the best meet we've ever had, because they've all been firing pretty well. We just had a couple bad trips here and there, and say half those second places were winners, we would be coming out of here thinking we had finally figured the place out, so to speak. But you know, next summer we'll come back, we'll learn a little more, we'll make some more adjustments, and we'll figure it out.
She's pretty special, though. Where's she going next, you think?
She'll run in the First Lady in Kingland. She's really a true miler, and we knew what we were doing here. We knew we were asking her a little much to go a mile 1/8, even a mile 16, on this turf course, which has a really long stretch. Once she gets back to her niche, I think we'll see her back in the winner's circle.
Very good. All right, I want to get some thoughts on horses you have coming up this weekend, and you have a couple actually in the Saranac. You have Sky Hero, and you also have World Approval. We're going to pull up the American Derby, which is a couple of starts back for World Approval. Since then, ran 4th in the Hall of Fame up here. Takeover Target won that race, is back in the Saranac on Saturday. Sky Hero last time out was an optional claimer, ran a close-up second right here at Saratoga. But again, we're going to go back to the American Derby. World Approval will be the #6 horse, will last by a neck as the favorite in here. Talk a little bit about your 2 horses in the Saranac.
You know, really high on Sky Hero, to be honest. We thought his race back after being off a huge layoff was really encouraging. He, if you look, that race is actually against older horses. Now he's getting to go back against his own age group, and having a race as a fitner or a tightener, so to speak. I really think he's going to move forward. World Approval, I think you could argue, kind of had a bad trip his last start. He kind of got shuffled back in the Hall of Fame, and the pace was actually pretty slow that day. So maybe with a little bit of a more aggressive ride, And, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody,
No.
but that's just how racing goes. But had he had been a little more aggressive on him, he may have very well won the Hall of Fame. So obviously I got to be excited to run him back. You're running basically against the same group of horses, and he fits in there as well. But both of them trained really well up to the race, and both of them are definitely worth a look.
Yeah, and it's a fun competitive division this year, those 3-year-olds on the turf. I always think it's fun, but this year it's particularly interesting. Also want to take a look at 6th race on Saturday. You have one in there as well, Conquest Panthera. This has been out in Southern California for you guys. We're going to go back to last year, and both of the starts were from last year, but broke the maiden August of 2014. We're going to look at that maiden breaker. Conquest Panthera will be the number 2 horse. Pretty good win, first time out of the box. Then you guys got ambitious and tried him in the Grade 1 front runner. Didn't run so well that day, but behind American Pharaoh in that race. Now he's been off a while, coming back on Saturday. What are your thoughts on Conquest Panthera?
I thought when he broke his maiden, it was super impressive. He had really touted himself, and he performed the way that we thought he would when he broke his maiden. We like you said, you got ambitious. We ran him on the dirt. He's probably better bred for the grass, and he came out of that with a little minor injury that he got time off for, and that's why he's back this weekend. But just been, giving him a steady diet of turf breezes over on the Oklahoma turf training track, and really, really training exceptionally well, and just super excited to have him back, and he can join the division with World Approval and Sky Hero after this one.
Yeah, there you go. And with the Conquest in the name, obviously from Conquest Stables, you've got plenty of them. You talked about the team at the barn, but talk about some of the owners.
We're just incredibly blessed to be in the position we are in. We've got some really, really nice people that we train for, and people that are passionate about what we do and about their horses. And Conquest people, Mr. Oxley, all these guys have put us in a position that we can be here, we can be in Woodbine, we can be all over the country, and they trust us. And I feel like we've done a very good job for them, but they give us the firepower. So we're just grateful.
Yeah, and I want to bring up, if you know, Conquest Boogaloo, who ran in the Canadian Triple Crown, most recently second at Fort Erie in the breeders behind Danish Dynaform, who's very, very good. But Conquest Boogaloo had some trouble trips and whatnot. Now with the Canadian Triple Crown over, will he come down here or stick up there? Are there spots up there?
I think I just saw on the training chart that he's being pointed to the Ontario Derby up there.
That makes
he's
sense.
Probably a better synthetic horse anyways. Like you alluded to, he's kind of had some tough trips. You could make an argument, had he not broke so slow, that maybe he wins the Queen's Plate. It's a hypothetical, but he's definitely been one of those horses that's always there, always picking up a paycheck, and now hopefully we'll get him into a race that he can be the bride, so to speak.
I always like to ask people, and it seems clear with you, but how you got into the game. And I like to ask people because some people it's the family, some people it's friends, some people just go to the track on their own and fall in love with it. But with you, I'm sure it's the family, obviously.
Well, I think that helps me be in the position that I'm in for sure. But truthfully, Dad kind of let me do what I wanted, and for the longest time, I didn't really like coming to the races.
Oh, really?
Didn't like it, and I would go to church on the weekends with my friends, and something happened, and it just clicked, and the next thing you knew, I was complete fanatic over it. And then, like I said, you're already bred into it, so to speak. You've got the advantages, and you're in this position that I'm in now, but it wasn't pushed on me. We'll put it that way.
That's interesting. So it wasn't the family, it was the friends that brought you.
Yeah, it was not. It was never pushed on me. Not once. And I don't think if you're going to work 7 days a week, you can't be forced to do this. You can't. And I get up 7 days a week, and I work my butt off every day to be at places like this, and it's because I love what I do and I'm passionate what I do. And
I mentioned you pulled up the entries for the barn, and you have Kentucky. I pulled up one of those Kentucky races. It was an allowance for like $125,000.
Maiden races are worth $120,000 if you're a Kentucky bred.
And also you have a horse called Florida One, Sunday Presque Isle Mile. What's that horse look like?
He looks good. He's another horse that kind of seems more like a synthetic specialist. We actually brought him here, and he had worked just okay, and we were going to run him on the main track here, and he had just worked okay. We sent him over back to Woodbine, and he galloped in a stake race. So he's one of those horses that you find the right it's a niche horse, is what I call it. You find the right niche for them, you put them in the right spots, and they perform well, and that's what his niche is.
And Norm, I want to ask you, because whenever I get trainers over here, I like to, because the folks who watch this, there's certainly people who are absolutely clued in, and up here at Saratoga, I think there's also folks who are just kind of getting into the game. And really for both of those audiences, it's interesting to get the nuts and bolts and kind of behind the scenes. And we see it with the entries you have coming up, Kentucky Downs, Presque Isle up here at Saratoga, Woodbine. Talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts and the study that goes into just looking at the condition books to decide where a barn like yours is going to send their horses.
You know, I think that's one of our biggest assets, is that we look at a particular horse and we figure out a particular horse, and we have a lot of horses, but each horse is put in a race or in a division or in a state or a track for a certain reason. So the Kentucky bred horses are obviously at Kentucky Downs because the purse money's there, and they're all bred for the grass. The Woodbine horses are Ontario breds. They like the synthetic. We have a horse at Churchill that doesn't necessarily like the dirt. It goes up to Woodbine. And we feel like we get the most potential out of each individual horse because we are at so many different locations that offer so many different surfaces and things like that. We also get to run on the longest stretch in North America on the outside turf course at Woodbine. So if we have a horse that we feel like is better suited for that, we won't run them on the inner turfs anymore in the the American racetracks. They'll go up to Woodbine. And that's why I feel like we're successful, because we look at each horse individually and we figure out the best way they can perform.
And how much of it is your input and the owner's input? How much?
It goes both ways. We're very we'll listen to their opinion, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong, and vice versa. But we, you know, it's not a dictatorship. It's everybody gets a word in. Dad really trusts me. He trusts the other assistants and our opinions, and because we all have that mutual respect for each other, it works. Very
good. And also be getting everybody's opinion from the past week, and just how crazy it was up here Friday and Saturday, and just for racing, it was so much fun. What were your thoughts? Particularly the morning workout on Friday, that was nuts.
You know, for a long time I've been waiting to see a Triple Crown winner. It was obviously the first of my lifetime, and I've obviously don't have anything to do with the horse personally, but I've been a part of it every step of the way. Ran in the Derby against him, ran in the Preakness against him. He's trained at Churchill all spring long, and then to be a part of what happened here at Saratoga was just, I know, and I got to watch the race from the backside with my father, and I know that's going to be something I remember for the rest of my life. It's truly something special.
And it really was a very, very special day. And before we let you go, also want to talk just about the specialness of Saratoga, being a guy who bounces around to the different venues. Talk about a little bit what it's like here at Saratoga. And I always say, it's not just the racetrack, it's the town, where you go down and you're having dinner and the guy next to you is talking about his daily double. That's what makes it so special.
You know what I think separates this racetrack from any other racetrack? Because obviously the venue's beautiful, the town's beautiful, but I mean this 100%. The fans know what they're talking about. You could be standing behind a group of guys that you would think are just some college kids, and they're watching the TV and they're talking about layoffs, and they're talking about a guy's percentage off the layoff and things like that. And it's like, it's nice because, you know, they're hard on you when you're not doing well, but at the same time, you got to be like, you know what, he knows what he's talking about, so there's no reason for me to even argue with the guy. And that's what I like so much about the Saratoga, because of the fans. And I promise you, that's the number one thing I like about it.
I say the same thing. They're very savvy up here, in that you'll be on the front side, and you and I, being plugged into the game, know about some story horse, and you think, oh, the kind of the casual fan, and boy, they're right up at the rail and they're applauding for the horse.
They know.
Yeah,
they know, and it's what separates it from Kingland and Del Mar and the other places. These fans, they're honed in and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Norm, we appreciate the visit this morning. Again, we'll be looking forward to all your horses moving forward as well. Your stable loaded with a horse like Pepin. A couple of seconds up here, but we're going to be watching. She's really special, as well as some of the other horses you have. We wish you good luck this weekend as well, and throughout the remainder of the meet, and over at the other venues also. Kentucky Downs, pick up some of that big money and then bring it home to us. But Norm, again, thanks for the visit.
Thank you.
Norm Casse, son of trainer Mark Casse. Happy to talk to him, and we'll head into our next break. Speaking of the offspring of trainers, PG Johnson is the feature race.